Hello guys, welcome to my humble YouTube channel where I bring you fanfiction that will brighten your days. Chapter 4 Sisters Defeat, Trinity's Reunion. The sound produced by the water falling down the waterfall could be heard all around, like a pre-battle chant. The somewhat accelerated breathing of a beautiful worried girl echoed together. Azusa, the immortal witch, was mentally preparing herself to be able to put a stop to the one who was once her companion, her friend and beloved. Are you sure you'll be alright, sweetie? You worry me. I think it would be better if I accompanied you too, voiced the worried mother, but was stopped by her daughter. It's something I must do alone, Mom. I've left Rimuru alone for a long time. I must talk to him and tell him what he needs to know, that this was not his fault, mentioned Azusa, a little nervous. Maybe her heart wanted to close that painful circle. But now she was no longer doing it for him or for her, she was doing it for the others. Hearing that several worlds fell at Rimuru's feet, she couldn't stop feeling guilty. For her way of acting with him, she pushed him to the edge of the abyss, and now several worlds have suffered the consequences. Let me accompany you, was heard behind her. It was the goddess Ninten, one of the most important deities of her world. Hearing and feeling what happened, she did not hesitate for a second to accompany her dear friend. I'm sorry, but no, this is something between him and me, Azusa affirmed. You are about to enter a war, my child. Are you sure you will be okay? Alone? Pointed out the spirit. Yes, Mom, it's my duty, my responsibility, she said. The mother had many reasons to worry, however, she knew that if there was any chance to stop Rimuru, her daughter could do it. After all, the two of them had a special bond, a past together, something which united them. And so it was decided. Azusa, the beautiful immortal witch, said goodbye to her friends and her mother, using her power to conjure a portal to another world. The resounding battle cry could be heard in the distance, sparks from the clashing steel of the swords, hundreds of arrows covering the air, and fierce explosive booms echoed across the battlefield. Rimuru Tempest, the conquering demon king, was entering a new world that was being decimated. In battle, he had already taken control of 70% of this world. There were only a few countries left to resist, however for him it was only a matter of minutes, as his orc troops and goblin riders were controlling the situation. This world is somewhat weak, I doubt that here I will find my answer, was heard in a disappointed way from the Demon King. Are we done with this world, my lord? Questioned with a sadistic look the girl. It was Ultima, one of the most loyal subjects to Rimuru, a noble demon who was under Tempest's orders. No. We are already a few minutes away from our retinue defeating these soldiers. Let's leave the job to them, pointed out the Demon King. You sound very confident, young man, was heard behind both of them. A beautiful girl with short silver-purple hair, golden eyes and a too white skin was behind both of them, crossed her arms and with a crystal sword hanging in its scabbard at her waist. It was Moroja, the goddess of the sword, one of Tuya's self-appointed sisters. For a moment Rimuru himself was surprised, for neither he nor Seal could perceive her presence until she spoke. For the first time in a long time, Rimuru was impressed with someone's ability. I don't know who you are, but you will fall just like your kingdom, was heard from Ultima, as she threw herself against the goddess, but she simply with a swift movement arrived in front of her and knocked her down, causing her to fall on the spot. Ultima, Rimuru shouted in surprise, running towards his subordinate, but Seal notified him that she was only unconscious. How did she tell you? She's only unconscious, reacted Moroja, which made Rimuru surprised. She must have told you, he said, thought Rimuru. Indeed, the goddess was aware of Ciel's presence in Rimuru. Who are you? Rimuru questioned in surprise, but preparing for a battle by unsheathing his sword. He could sense it. She was not like the enemies he fought in the past. I am not from this world and I did not come to fight, I only came to talk. Your selfish acts are affecting several worlds. That is not right. I ask you to cease your hostilities without qualm and return to your world. Return to Tempest, Moroja said somewhat calmly. At that moment, Rimuru was more surprised. A person who knocked out one of her main warriors from her world was telling her to return home. A person that surprised even Ciel's knowledge was in front of him, for the first time in a long time. Rimuru was unaware of what could happen. What if I refuse? He pointed out as he began to emanate a demonic aura. You are a superior being in your world, and very likely in other worlds. I ask you to reconsider that. It is not fair that because of your sadness you cover other worlds with unhappiness, said the goddess, worried. Silence, said Rimuru, launching himself to attack her. On principle he was attacking from a distance, because he wanted to measure the abilities of the girl in front of him. Clash of swords mediated their forces, their abilities. Gradually the pace of the battle intensified. I told you I just want to talk. Goddess pointed sharply, somewhat seriously, as she landed several blows, suddenly with a quick movement. Moroja cut off both of Rimuru's arms, which made her drop one of her katanas. Silence, I have nothing to talk to you about, he pointed out somewhat furiously while trying to regenerate his arms, but he realized that he was having a hard time succeeding, as if some kind of power was trying to sell his regeneration ability. Stop this, please, stop before you regret it. The path you are choosing is a path full of death, chaos and despair, pointed Moroja, imploring. Rimuru. Shut up, I don't care about anything you say, for inside him he felt that a superior being was preventing him from reaching his mind. In his mind he thought that existence itself was denying him to reach his mind, to be able to see again his loved ones who passed away some time ago. Anger and sadness began to grow more and more inside Rimuru as the battle progressed. The heat of the battle was becoming more and more fierce, to the point of overshadowing the battle was in dispute between the orcs, the goblins and the knights of the kingdom that was attacking. Both contenders were showing some fatigue, for Rimuru was a warrior who had made her sweat. She had not felt such a strong pressure since she fought Hinata Sakaguchi before becoming Demon King. Turn back, and return to your world, please, pointed the sword goddess. Shut up. No one will stop me from getting to my mate, Rimuru angrily pointed out. As the clash of swords continued, the roar of battle intensified every second. Rimuru used her Tempest Katana to block Moroja's attacks while she attacked in a dexterous manner, giving no quarter. Those katanas you possess. I can feel it. The Tempest Katana, from it emanates a divine power, and the Veldora Katana, its power is something that surpasses the logic of many worlds, pointed the goddess of the sword, as she made ground to make space between the two. Then, test her power, said Rimuru, and with the Veldora Katana using its maximum power and speed tried to hit Moroja. However, the goddess managed to cover herself with her crystalline sword, covering her body. However, the destruction that was visualized was immeasurable. An entire mountain was split in two. I'll say it again. Who are you? Rimuru pointed out furiously. Someone who cares about you, boy, pointed out the goddess. You should be more worried about you than me, pointed out Rimuru, causing dark flames to surround Moroja and suddenly lash out at her, striking her body. I told you I just wanted to talk, boy, pointed out the goddess after the flames dissipated. Suddenly Rimuru saw the girl with her clothes somewhat tattered and torn, with wounds that looked lethal. However, the goddess was still standing, although a bit tired, just like Rimuru. I've had enough of you and your insistence, said Rimuru while asking. Seal to activate, Beelzebub. There are other ways to defeat you. I affirmed to later take her form a serious posture and try to devour the goddess while emanating from her hand a dense dark mist. However, the goddess activated part of her scarce divine aura that she had left, resulting in a clash of powers between Moroja's golden, celestial aura and Rimuru's black mist collided in an explosion that sent them both to the ground, while their swords fell in opposite directions. Moroja's crystalline sword and the Veldora Katana fell at Rimuru's feet, while the Tempest Katana fell at the goddess' feet. Meanwhile, in Babylon Fortress, at a location in the Divine Realm, Tuya monitored the incidents of various worlds being conquered. Rimuru's servants were focusing on one world in particular, a world where Rimuru claimed he felt a greater power than he felt on other worlds. Suddenly, Tuya felt a painful sensation in his chest. He had not felt such pain since the last of his wives had perished. In pain he reacts in a frightened manner. What's wrong, sir? Rosetta questioned worriedly. No. Not again, Tuya said worriedly as he transported to the world, where he perceived what happened. In a matter of seconds he arrived at where Moroja was unconscious. Worried, he used wind magic to disperse some of the debris and ground fog that formed from the collection of attacks. He checked on his sister and saw that she was only unconscious, but alive, barely. He used some of his divinity and transferred it to his sister, in order to get her out of harm's way. Subsequently, Ultima, Rimuru's subordinate, gets up and goes to her master's aid. Sir, are you all right? React, she said worriedly, as the rest of Tempest's troops gathered at the site. You will pay with your lives for hurting our lord, shouted the orcs. But they were stopped by a paralyzing attack from Tuya. Seeing his sister injured and serious made Tuya's anger start to grow. Someone had dared to hurt a loved one to him, and that is something he would never forgive. However, he had an obligation not to interfere in mortal affairs, but due to what happened he was more than willing to break that rule. Tuya approached Rimuru, but was rammed by Ultima, who tried with all her might to stop him, but he only put her to sleep with dark magic. I had nothing against you, my sister just wanted to investigate and settle things the peaceful way, but her master's foolishness caused the worst scenario that could have happened, Tuya said, serious, then showing some of his anger. Now you made me your enemy. I will end this crusade once and for all. Tuya pointed out at the moment that from his storage magic he pulled out Brunhild, his sword, pistol. Quickly, Rimuru reacted and stood up and took the two swords in his hand, and thus two forces of power were facing each other. Rimuru, the most powerful demon king, the prince of darkness, and Tuya, the heir of God Almighty. I don't know who you are, but if you dare to stand in my way you will regret it. You will fall just like that girl, Rimuru pointed out as he quickly regenerated and asked Seal if he could see Tuya's patterns or stats. Unfortunately for him, he could do no such thing, which made Rimuru more cautious. Tuya used Excel and Boost to start the battle. He used Brulid in sword mode to attack Rimuru, but Rimuru evaded the attack. They continued in this way, launching attacks and evading. They were mediating, studying each other, trying to find some kind of opening or space to take advantage of. In a matter of minutes, Tuya and Rimuru began to hit each other, weak blows, superficial wounds that healed in a matter of seconds. Suddenly, Rimuru dropped his sword and quickly channeled his energy into his fist, then used his speed to get in front of Tuya and connect a quick blow to the stomach that threw him towards the rest of the mountain he had recently split with his sword. However, Tuya rejoined, used his flight and speed to return the blow to Rimuru, which he blocked by crossing his arms. You are a threat to existence, Tempest, Tuya pointed out in annoyance, as he tried to kick him, but Rimuru blocked it, and he tried to connect another one with his right leg, but Tuya blocked it with Brunhild. I don't care, as long as I accomplish my goal, my purpose. I don't care about anything anymore, Rimuru pointed out annoyed. You are nothing but an egomaniac, a twisted being who has no respect for anything but himself. Your death will be a favor to existence, Tuya reaffirmed. Suddenly, both began to fly. Seeing that physical attacks were useless, they decided to use magical attacks. Tuya started to create multiples to launch shining javelins, while Rimuru was thickening to manifest Megiddo. The moment the attacks were launched, a barrier in the form of Aurora manifested and contained both attacks, causing both contenders to be shocked, as their techniques had been repelled by an unknown barrier, unknown at least to Tuya. No. What's he doing here? Rimuru was surprised, looking around for the barrier's creator. As Tuya touched the barrier and with one of his magics absorbed the barrier until he weakened it and broke it. However, something inside him was astonished. For the moment he touched the barrier he felt a very familiar power, a power that for him was very common. Divinity. Divinity itself was what the barrier was made of, which made him stay on his toes. While Tuya was thinking about the reason why there was a divine barrier protecting Rimuru, a beautiful girl rammed him and knocked him to The ground. Parallel to that, all of Rimuru's familiars in that world were swept away by portals that came out of the ground, returning them to their home world. Azusa. How? Rimuru questioned, but he was absorbed by a portal that digested him to Tempest, as well as his subordinates, and while at that moment Rimuru was absorbed by the portal that Azusa created, she, somewhat weakened, turned to see Tuya and with a furious face told him, "You won't hurt him. I won't let you hurt him," while attacking him with a wind magic, which made Tuya use Excel to place himself behind Azusa and take advantage to use Take Energy to weaken Azusa and take her in his arms. "Get away from her!" Rimuru shouted furiously as he was absorbed by the portal Azusa created. And so the last thing he saw was Azusa fall into Tuya's arms. In his mind he could only feel hatred and rancor. Tuya did not waste the opportunity. He took Rimuru's remaining katana and used his divinity to transport Moroja and Azusa with him back to Babylon. "I will not only kill you and that girl, but I will torture you so mercilessly for eternity, you will wish you were never born. There will be no words to explain the agony and despair you will live the rest of your existence."